Virgoans. I was going to say good morning, but it's that time of the day where morning transitions into afternoon. And, maybe that's relevant for you, the transitions, especially considering yesterday trying to do your video and getting blocked at every avenue, which might be relevant for you, especially in current growth opportunities. So, for those of you who have Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, North Node, or a Virgo stellium, or you just feel called to this reading, or maybe you're thinking of somebody who has some Virgo placements or current growth opportunities to learn, whatever reason you're here, welcome and thank you. I feel like since I tried to do the first Virgo reading, that there's definitely been both distraction and delay. Kind of the what is it? The conductor from Thomas. The confusion and delay. That's what it feels like in there. And you got an interesting set of cards, Virgo. Of course, with your energy, the few rules that I set for myself in doing these types of readings, you follow them. They're they're there. Three cards specifically, no more, no less. But what's interesting, see? You see what I'm talking about? Wow, and we don't usually get helicopters out here, especially not so low flying. Is it a little loud around you, Virgo? It seems, Virgo, like there's something going on in your life that is a bit of a mess. And there may even be some sort of situation going on for you that feels unsafe, or maybe multiple situations that feel unsafe. And anyways, it's interesting because of the readings I've done so far, Virgo, you're the first one that has had all upright cards. Though the funny thing is, one of the cards that you got, I would normally associate it with a reverse card. Now it's in a new deck for me, and so and I mean, even in Rider Thwaite, some cards are better reversed than they are upright, but typically they're better upright than reverse, at least in the energy. But what I'm seeing, so let me just show you, because I'm sure this will actually make more sense to you, and I know it does not have to make sense to me, but what you got of the carrot cards is the first card, the apples. And what that card typically means is abundance, like delicious apples on the ground for little rabbits to nibble on. And I love that that's how they associate it with it. And when I think of apples, one of the first things that comes to my mind, well, two things. The first one is when you cut it in half a certain way, you find a pentacle inside a star. And the other thing is how many ways that apples are associated with wisdom and magic and Eden and just all those things. And it definitely tells me that you have some opportunities around you for the sweetness in life and for abundance and for joy of the simple pleasures, the little things. Now, the next card, interestingly enough, oh, and also being number one, that would be new beginnings in there, and also a little bit of the magician energy, link back to magic. But the card you got from the divine energy cards is this card, hostilities, 26. Are you feeling like, are you feeling hostile lately, Virgo, or do you feel like others around you are feeling hostile? I feel like this is more, well, I feel like this is a duality for you, which makes sense because you're ruled by Mercury, and Mercury definitely creates dualities. And the figure in there, he's holding a sword, and it's a double-edged sword. And it feels like you're in a place of vulnerability where you know that you need to cut some things out. You know that you've like been splitting your focus too much, and it is taking away your abundance, especially by what I'm looking at in the underlying cards of these decks. It feels like there's a situation, likely either where you are living, or maybe it's a social community group that you've been participating in, where there are hostilities going on. And I feel like in most ways it's hostilities coming at you, but you may not realize also that, and especially as an earth sign Virgo, that you can be hostile yourself and sometimes not recognize that you are being that way with others. Now, typically, you're not usually like that unless others are hostile with you, but you do have a tendency to, rather than deal with the confrontation that's right in front of you, typically you'll take that hostility and, like, what do you call it? There's a word for it, and I can't think of it. It's where you kind of like separate things into pieces. Like you'll be a little hostile with that person or this person or that person, just to kind of like spread it out so that you don't have to stand up for yourself, or you don't have to face the main people or persons that are being hostile with you. I also want to say you might either have some Cancer or Leo placements, or be dealing with someone with Cancer or Leo placements, because they had some similar stuff in their readings, and they also, Cancer in specific, had this card that you have, accept what is dying. And I remember when I was shuffling the cards, because I just left these cards as I pulled them yesterday, I shuffled that deck really, really well. And that card wanted to come out a little bit, but I thought, nah, I just haven't shuffled it well. And if it wants to come back out, it will come back out. And then it did. Like it like threw itself on the floor. Spirit was like, this is what Virgo needs to see. And so what this tells me is that you've got a situation where your opportunity is to cut away at the things that are splitting your focus, and to accept that life comes with pain and pleasure, and that yes, sometimes you are going to have to be the one to create the pain. And and really in this time, it's important to recognize that sometimes when we create pain for others, we actually create growth opportunities for them. I mean, say that you've been in a relationship that has not really worked out, and you've invested every possible avenue into making it work, or a friendship or a job, and you know that you have, well, let's say that you can see the potential in it, but it's just not going there. And the other person that you're working with is, they seem to be sabotaging things. And no matter what you do, you're not able to have healthy boundaries, you're not able to have healthy communication, and you find yourself having to pretend a lot, having to placate and pander and lie and cover things up for them and then for yourself, and then before you know it, you're in this situation where you've invested a lot of time, and maybe you have a fair amount of apples with them, but it just doesn't remove the hostilities, and you know that you need to end it. And even if you're fairly sure that the other person involved is going to be hurt by you doing that, you also know that they're going to be hurt even if you don't. Now, the the thing about it is that by you cutting yourself free, which is what I see with this warrior or warrior S holding the sword. Like, it seems like it's very King of Swords. Like, it's time to cut yourself free. And it's card number 26, which equals 8, which is strength. Kind of the Beauty and the Beast card for me. And it's both about embracing our natural wild side as well as tempering and taming our natural wild side. It's about bravery and courage and things of that nature. And when you release somebody because it's not working with them, a lot of times you actually give them the opportunity to learn something. Now, they might not learn it right away. It depends on where they are, and only you're going to know, are they awake enough and aware enough to appreciate that or not. But either way, you're helping yourself to learn something new, and to learn to stand up for yourself and defend your space in honorable ways. And you're giving yourself the freedom to have those apples that you so dearly deserve without having to worry about them being all eaten up by worms, or that you'll be so busy trying to take care of the burrow and the house and all these other things that they throw in your path, that you don't get to enjoy the apples, that they're rotten and bad and mushy by the time you get to them, you know? And I also see the accept what is dying card as kind of a part of that with the apples. Like, yes, when the apples hit the ground, there are so many sweet ones, but You don't need to just devour them up because you're afraid that they will rot and die eventually. They're going to. All things do. We all go through cycles. And sometimes those cycles are dying cycles, and then they create new beginning. When those apples die, they the seeds go into the ground. And when they are eaten by you and by other creatures, when they poop them out, those seeds go elsewhere and new apple trees grow. And then there is more and more abundance. So trying to hold on to everything because you're afraid to not have enough abundance or to not be loved or to not have support or all of those things, all you actually do is create more lack. You create more chaos. You create more hostility in trying to do that. In fact, Virgo, that might be your growth opportunity right now, is to recognize that trying to hold on to the past, trying not to grow, trying to save what you feel like was that sweetness, it can actually take away a lot more opportunities for greater sweetness. And I think because of the green in here, and even, in the apples card, it's got grass in it. There's no color in it, but grass to me is green. I'm seeing a lot of heart chakra stuff here too. And because the sword is blue, that's throat chakra. Clear your throat, speak your truth. And you might even find, Virgo, that a situation that you're afraid to face, whatever this opportunity is, where you have to speak your truth and likely cut yourself free from a situation, might not be as bad as you think it'll be. Whether it's leaving a job or leaving a relationship or letting go of an old situation, it might be easier than you think, or it might be more rewarding than you think, maybe more fruitful. And I think also I'm being called into a lesson that is learned from the Nine of Pentacles card, which is to allow fruit to ripen on its own. You don't go and pull the apples off the tree when they are still green and unripe. There's no reason for it unless you're going to use it to huck it, like to throw it at somebody. And at that point, that's hostile. Like you let them ripen. You let them ripen. If you're a rabbit, you let them ripen until they fall on the ground. I mean, you don't really climb trees anyways, but if you're a human, you let them ripen until you can go up and put your hand underneath it, and just by touching it, it comes away from the tree easily. Like it wants to. It wants to be eaten and digested and enjoyed at that point in time. But until that point in time, it's not ripe. And by trying to hold on to a dying situation or thought pattern or things like that, you're basically trying to pluck unripe fruits from the tree. So maybe that's your main growth opportunity, Virgo, is to allow things to ripen on their own. Now let's see. Card number 26 says 25. That's funny. I accidentally turned to 25 first, and it said deceit, which seems like it's fitting in with hostility. So if you've been deceitful, even if it's for what you feel like is a good cause, stop that. Face your truth. And if you know others have been deceitful to you, um, you know, don't sit with that. And if you feel like they think that they're doing it for a good cause, either examine it. Maybe you did need to be faced with that. But you can also let them know that you'd rather have them be honest, even if it's hard to hear what they really have to say. Because there's far more growth opportunities in. Oops, just knocked over my coffee, right? There's far more growth opportunities available in an honest truth that hurts than a pretty lie and empty words that make you feel good temporarily until you see that the actions don't align with the words. Um, and I'm not sure if it's relevant or not with the spilled coffee, but you might be going through something like maybe you'll recognize a growth opportunity because it either has to do with coffee or maybe a broken cup or mug or spilled milk. Like, is somebody crying over spilled milk? Now, card number 26, hostilities. Defenses up, aggressive energy. Upright, this card shows a man raising his sword in readiness to do battle. When it comes upright, it reveals a situation where hostilities towards you are about to be or have been already been engaged. This aggressive energy may be verbal or emotional, with someone in your environment being excessively critical, demanding, or hurtful. In a work or social situation, there may be backstabbing and out slander going on. This is different from the deceit card because the hostile energies are more apparent, more overt. In fact, you may have been living with them for some time. But whether this is new or old energy, now is the time to regain control. Allowing dishonoring treatment from others is an open invitation to the universe to send you more. It may feel risky, but you need to have the courage to stand up for yourself now and always. Affirmation: I am receiving the peaceful, harmonious treatment I deserve in my life. I set boundaries, make reasonable requests, and make my expectations clear. And you know what? That, yeah, that sound. It's funny that I didn't, like, I felt like that was in there, and yet I didn't make the connection myself. So I think there's some opportunities for you to kind of connect the dots, and especially when it comes to having healthy boundaries and doing the honorable thing. And I feel like, Virgo, for some of you, you've been faced with some hostilities with people that maybe you've not been honorable with, and you're being faced with people who are being hostile towards you because you want them to be honorable with you. It's important that if you are not allowed to have boundaries, healthy boundaries, examine your boundaries, and especially as Earth signs, sometimes our boundaries are too thick and too tough. But there are other times that we need them to be thicker and tougher. And if you are faced with a situation where you cannot have healthy boundaries, that's the situation you need to accept is dying and allow it to become mush and go back to the earth. All right, Virgo, I'm going to leave this here. Thank you so much for your likes, shares, comments, everything. I'll catch you in the next video.